Don't just get the latest car and just drive it around town showing how cool you are with the car. Get under the hood. Find out how that fuel injection is different from this other one, how, etc. Really just kind of get your hands dirty and tinker.
Hi, good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
My name is Ihechi and I'm a tech content creator. Right, so what's your name? What do you do?
My name is Uche Ogubji. Nice to meet you, Ihechi. I work to help as a consultant to help companies solve problems, mostly with AI, mostly implemented with Python, data pipelines to pull information from all over, like whether they have enterprise databases, whether they're scraping data off the web, maybe they have unstructured documents. How do you, in a really engineered way, pull all that together and integrate it and apply AI to that? So that's what I do for work. I also contribute to a lot of open source. So for instance, a lot of the tools that I use, me and my company use in our consulting are actually open source out there, because I believe that you can always, give back in that way. And you can even still build like commercial little bit on top of the broader open source base. So are you a software engineer? Yes. So I'm a software engineer and a data architect. So it's kind of similar. Software engineer, you're writing a lot of code. Data architect, you're analyzing and figuring out the structure and creating workflows for processing data. So they're related, but they overlap, and I do both. So isn't it overwhelming doing the both together? It is for some people. In fact, I've noticed that a lot of people struggle, like coders, are so focused on the code sometimes, and data architects are so focused on, using, business intelligence tools and stuff like that, and even spreadsheets. And sometimes they're not coming together. And so I actually find myself fortunate that, from early in my technology career, I recognize that code and that data is more important than code, but that you need to be able to, manage code efficiently and in a good engineering context in order to make the data work for you. So I really did work to apply both sides of it, and I'm comfortable with both sides of it now.
Nice. So how long have you been a software engineer and a data?
It's a good question. So, and it's an interesting question. So if I can take you on a bit of a journey. Back at Port Harcourt, 1985, 86, I started to get interested in computers. My parents bought me a personal computer, and I started to learn to program. But I found out even back then in the 80s that the problems I was interested in were manipulating data. Even some of the things we're doing in AI now, I started to experiment with, not as sophisticated as today's AI, but I was still primitive versions of that I was experimenting with, and it's all data. AI is all about data flows. So even way back when, we had I had a few friends who were also into computers. I mean, I do want your audience to know Nigeria has had a computer, enthusiast scene going back to the 80s. It's just that obviously, we don't have all the resources they have in the West. So once I moved to America, I was able to get my hands on more resources, but we were still learning a lot and doing some cool things way back when. So yes, all the way back to the 80s. So we're talking, for almost 40 years now that I've been doing it. Now, and I added the data part pretty much right from the beginning. And I graduated, my degree is in electronic engineering with a computer emphasis. So what you did in school had a correlation with tech? So it was electronic engineering. So the core curriculum was more about chip design, how it works, circuits, electronic circuits and stuff like that. But they also had a intensive focus on software that you could take if you wanted. And you'd learn about databases, you'd learn about AI, the way AI was back in the 90s and stuff like that. And I did choose that. Did we have AI back in the 90s? Yes, actually. So AI actually goes back to the 60s. And I think it's important for people to understand that AI is really I would say AI is taking our best ideas of how to process data
Okay.
and then pushing it to the edge. It's always been that
Yeah.
way. So even back then in the 60s, they had AI, and it was really like the first neural networks. They're like, we need to do image recognition. I could write code like to scan the line and then try to figure it out, but I could also figure out ways to new techniques to figure out what letter is this on the screen or whatever.
Okay.
So that was the first AI.
Yeah.
Through to today is the same. It's the same thing in that we're taking the most advanced techniques. If you think about the AI processors, they're graphics processors.
Yeah.
They were developed for gaming. Then they were used for crypto.
Yeah.
Now they're being used for AI. So we're taking that cutting edge hardware and techniques and applying it to different data flows, and that's what makes it AI. So there's been AI all the way back then. Now, just a quick mention of the type of AI that was there when I was in university.
Yeah.
There are things called structured logic, expert systems. There were neural networks, but very basic ones, not as complicated as today's. And then there were things like genetic algorithms.
Okay.
So
what was that one thing that caught your attention and you said, no, I have to do tech?
yeah. So the funny thing is that I got into tech less because one thing really caught my. I loved computers,
Okay.
but I kind of wanted to be like an author. I love literature even more. But my parents were like, you're good at mathematics, you're good with computers, why don't you just do this thing that has a better career path?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, you're right.
So that motivated.
Yeah, that became the motivation. But I always had a spark for computers, but it was really my parents pushing me that this is a good, solid career that made me go into it. But I don't begrudge them. I think they're right because I've had a really rewarding career from that.
So you're like, thank you.
Exactly. Listen to your parents. Sometimes they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, true. Okay, so when you left Nigeria, you moved to US. What was different for you in the learning process? Everything you had, the resources, what was different?
I think what was different was that and it's not necessarily a good thing, but you didn't have to think about how to maximize every resource you had. All of a sudden, when you get to the US, oh, you want more RAM? Oh, you can just get this machine with more RAM. You need more disk space? Oh, you can just get this additional disk space and stuff like that. And I think back to like my days, so I left Nigeria in like 91, and that like 86 to 91, that like 5-year period where we were like just doing our little computer club thing in Port Harcourt and in Nsukka, where I was going to university. We had to think about how to manage everything we had. If you have RAM, that's what you have. So you better make your idea fit into that RAM.
Wow.
You have disk space, that's what you have. So make that idea fit into it. So I actually think it made us better engineers. We could work with scarce resources. Whereas when I came to the US, I'm even looking like my mates, and they're like, they won't write the software as efficiently as they can.
They don't have all of those resources.
Exactly. They know they can just get more RAM, they can get more disk space. They'll say, but me, I would like be careful with like every byte, and can I avoid wasting stuff. So I do think that the difference.
Nigeria puts us in tight situation, and you have to work with the resources that you have and make it work.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so if you're not coding, if you're not in data, if you're not in anything tech, what do you do?
So if I'm not in tech, I still, like I had mentioned that I loved writing. I thought I was actually going to be an author. After I was admitted for electronic engineering at Nsukka, I actually discovered I love poetry and I love music. And at school, I would like DJ parties. I would put on poetry performances and stuff like that. And I never put that behind me. I just always
you still do all of that.
I still do all of that.
Oh wow! So you go to parties a lot.
Yeah, well, I go to parties as much as I can. But again, as a father of 4 and everything, it's hard, and a professional person. But honestly, I go to parties because I want to DJ. I want to play music that other people will dance to. And in fact, recently we had an environmental conference in Boulder, Colorado, where I live, or near where I live, where I was. So before lunch, during lunch, and after lunch, and then in the networking section, I DJ'd music for everybody. So I love doing that. I write poetry. I have a couple of books. I've been fortunate. They both won poetry prizes. And I like to perform and, turn the poetry into live, you know, I don't know, excitement as much as I can.
So that's what we're gonna send them. Plus at the end, check out the flow chart. You gotta roll the numbers and put their God in. Maybe you will get the right output. But if you don't, just remember that your book went back to the beginning and you can write it. And you can tell everybody that you decided you can tell the text if they can get it right. Come back to write the code all night. Because it's my problem.
Okay, so how has it been? Do any of your children like tech, anything?
Yes. They're, in fact, all my children now work with me. Yes, I have. So my 3 oldest children are boys.
Okay.
I have a 24-year-old, a 21-year-old, and 16-year-old. 18-year-old.
Okay.
Yes. So those 3 are all working actually with me closely, almost like an apprenticeship.
Okay.
So I was like, we do this because I do consulting. Sometimes we have a few more senior people, but I always make sure that they're involved.
Yeah.
Because I want to, again, remember when I'm talking about how in Nigeria we're more careful with our resources, we have to engineer things carefully. I want them to learn that mindset so that they are actually a bit more advanced than other people learning computer tech. It's and then the youngest daughter, she's not quite into tech, but maybe she'll do it eventually.
Yeah, well, that's really nice. Okay, so do you have any word for people being newbies in tech? And I still have one question.
Okay.
Do you think there's anything has changed from the tech those days in Nigeria and now? Has there been any improvement? And if
yes, and this conference is what showed me what an improvement there has been.
Okay,
so like back then, people were kind of like, computers are interesting. I watched this Oyibo film and I see what they're doing with computers, etc. They weren't really like trying to learn about it and find out about it. We would be doing our little things with our computer and other people would not be really gathering a lot. Maybe they gather just see what are you doing and then that was not interesting and walk away. Now I come to this conference and you see the energy and the interest and people who just started learning code, people who've been coding for years and years, all getting together, building community. That was not there back then. And that's really what excites me because I honestly think maybe if we had this sort of energy, all that 40 plus years, we might have been able to get farther.
I think you guys paid the price for us.
I guess so. But that's water under the bridge, and now we worry about the future, and which brings me to your question, words for the newbies. And it really is, honestly, we've, in Nigeria, in Africa, we spent too much time letting Europe, letting America, letting Asia, Japan, China, etc. lead the way. Whatever products they have left over, they send to us. We pay inflated prices. Whatever services they can do for us, they'll send their second-rate people over to us. It needs to stop. We need to take our destiny to our hand. We can do better. We're younger. We're brilliant. They don't believe it. We know how brilliant we are. We know the intellectual capital that we possess in Africa, and it's a challenge for us to basically continue to learn. They stumbled too. They made mistakes. They had crashes. The high tech had the big .com crash of 2001. They had more recent. Some people say even now is going through a bit of a crash with the AI revolution. So it doesn't mean that if we're going through hard times or we're struggling, need to give up. That's what we should double our efforts, and we should use that mentality and that ability that we have to stretch limited resources farther, to even take a leap ahead of the Europes and Americas and Asias of the world. I just really want them, it's going to be hard. Nothing will be handed to you on a golden plate, but keep on working, and most importantly, find people to collaborate with. We need to be together, working together. It helped me in those days in Port Harcourt to have other people who are interested in computers. We traded tips, we tried different things together, find other people who you can work with together so that it's not a solo thing in learning tech, it's a community thing. You and your friends, you and your classmates, you and somebody else who you just happen to meet that day who's into the same computer concepts as you.
So those days, did they see you guys as weirdo? You guys are wearing interested in tech? Because I mean, it's not like the medicine, nursing that people
Right.
usually do. So how did they see people? How did the community receive you, and how did that affect you?
There was a little bit of that. I think that was just kind of the normal banter. You know, everybody wants to find some way to like make fun of someone else a little bit. But you know, again, if I'm, even though if I'm into computers and people are like, that doesn't seem mainstream, but I'm also DJing a party for the university, then I can still have some cool points, right? So I didn't really feel too badly ostracized. I mean, people did nickname me Computer. That's it back, you know, like at Nsuka and stuff like at Nsuka.
Yeah.
That was people would nickname me Computer. I was like, I don't want this anymore. But I also didn't find it like vicious or anything else like that. You know, they were just having fun with me. So from my own experience, it didn't really feel like I was also treated as a weirdo, but it was definitely clear that people were not interested. You know, if like somebody else is doing something, I don't know, like drawing a comic or something like that, everyone will gather around and see what they're doing. And you know, if I'm working on a computer, nobody cares.
But did it pay off, like financially at the time?
Oh well.
Was there money in tech at the time?
And so I mean, I graduated in the I didn't graduate at Nsuka. I transferred from Nsuka to Engineering University in America. And so yes, when I graduated, I was in a situation where I have to have a job immediately or my visa would expire. I got a job like this first week I started looking. First week I started looking, got a job. Will you sponsor my visa? Yes. Yeah. So that paid off because, you know, that was the fact that computing was having good, you know, computer engineers. I graduated in the top 10% of the class. So so they're looking at that, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, if we need to go a little bit extra and sponsor the visa, we'll do it. So it did pay off, yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you have any other thing you want to tell us?
Yeah, I just think keep up to date with the latest trends. Of course, AI is hot right now, but don't just kind of say AI is hot, or don't just use like OpenAI the way it is or whatever. Try to really figure out what's going on under the hood and how you can tweak it. You know, it's like, don't just get the latest car and just drive it around town showing how cool you are with the car. Get under the hood. Find out how that fuel injection is different from this other one, you know, how, etc. Really just kind of get your hands dirty and tinker.
Okay, so it's getting hands dirty, right?
Yes.
If you have to change anything in Python or AI, something, what would that be?
If I had to change something, I would just continue to grow and nurture local communities like this. I think it's almost more social than anything else. I'm guessing you asked the question from a technical answer, but what I think I would honestly want to change more is the social side, is to make sure that, and it's not you know, young people like you, etc., that need to change. It's the establishment and the industries. Why are Nigerian banks not, you know, sponsoring, you know, large scale education in data analytics and data science and AI, right? Nigerian banks, Nigerian instruction, you know, firms, so that they can now become more efficient than their overseas competitors, right? So I would like to see governments in Africa. I would like to see large commercial entities in Africa. I would like to see non-governmental organizations support these communities that are trying to get ahead in tech.
Thank you. So Python is said to be the most used or most popular or most known language. Also, it's said to be the easiest.
Yes.
So both of them are true.
Yes, I think so. I actually discovered Python very early in its development, right after I graduated, pretty much, and I actually loved it immediately because I didn't even know Python. It came up in an error message in some other software I was using, and I was like, I can read this so easily that I can actually fix it, and I've never seen this language before. And to me, programming is communicating your intent in computer terms. So the better a language is for communicating intent, the better the programming language. And Python is so clear. You can communicate your intent. Someone else can come along and read it and understand your intent. And that's why I think Nigeria is the easiest language to learn. Yeah, Python. And I also think that Python is now the most widespread language, because that's people want that. Yeah, why wouldn't you want that?
All right. So newbies, they say you should go and do Python.
Yes, absolutely do Python. It's a great language to start. Almost any application you're thinking of in computing, you'll find a Python library or tool for it. And if people like to say Python is slow, sure, sometimes it'll be slow. You learn to optimize. If you have to write one portion of it and another in C or Rust, you can do that. But honestly, 90% of your code in Python, it'll be fast enough. It'll be good enough.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. It was really my pleasure. This was a great interview. Thank you. Great questions.